Okay, hi guys. So this is the tutorial for a rotator cuff. This was requested, so I'm going to do it. But we're going to be making one of these. Instead of one of the big ones with the bumpers, I call them, and then a way taller X face. So we're just going to make a simple 1X and then add spikes and then make a single for rotating. But basically, you're gonna need scissors, pony beads, and then string. I just start with a wingspan for any kind of cuff, and then I always probably need to tie on more. So if I have to tie on more, I'll just explain how to tie on more in case you have to tie on more too. But basically, you're gonna want to plan out your thing. I already kind of started, but my last recording, like my last video, failed and the audio wouldn't work. So I'm just gonna explain what I've started. But we need to plan our colors. So I'm gonna do like a pastel rainbow, so like, or not pastel, clear, so like clear pink, clear orange, clear yellow, clear green, clear blue, and then clear purple. But for the single, this is how you start it. You always start with the single. You need to add beads in a group of 3. So that can be like just one continuous color. So like this, like I'm making my single pink. And I basically just pick up 3 beads and I just string them on. And so that's how I know I'm doing them in groups of 3. Or you could have 2 colors and it could be like, this is color A, and then this is color, I can't pick it up, this is color B. So if you are doing 2 colors, you need 2 color A's and then 1 color B, and then you just repeat that in groups of 3. So you have 2 of these and then 1 of these to make a group of 3, and you just repeat that pattern. But I'm only doing 1 color, so I just grab 3 beads, if I could put them on. Yeah, and then just string them on, and then that's another group of 3. And then we just need to repeat this single until it fits your wrist. Okay, but now I'm done and I've tied on all of the beads in groups of 3, and now it fits my wrist. And I'm gonna show you how to tie it. Dude, my voice is so raspy in the morning, I swear, I hate it. Okay, but basically, you're gonna move all the beads to one end. So you have very little string on one end compared to the other. And basically what I do is I take my string, it's kind of hard to see, and I like cross them over. And then I take the short string and then I push it under. Well, I cross the short string over top of the other one, and then I push it under the long one, and you grab both ends, so the long end and the short end, and you pull. So once again, so you take the short string and you put it over top of the long end, and then you take the short string and you push it into the hole underneath the long string. So I put it over top, now there's this hole. And you take the short string and you push it under through the hole. And you just pull. I normally do this, like, I might be psychotic, but 4 times. Because it's always so devastating just to see your cuffs fall. Never tie it just once. I would always tie it at least 3 times. But whenever you're done tying it, you can take your scissors and you can cut the short end, but not the long end. Never cut the long end on like a project that isn't finished. Okay. But now we just have one, I'm gonna call it a tail, but now we just have one tail, and it's the long tail. But basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna wanna find the area you tied, which for me is right there. And then you're going to want to take the string and you're going to want to push it into the nearest bead. I don't know why, I just always do that. Okay, But now, instead of being right here where we tied it, it's in this bead. Now, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take 3 beads. This is where I recommend changing it up and doing like an AA BB thing. But basically I recommend doing an ABA type thing. So in this situation, orange is now my A and yellow is now my B. I recommend doing something like this, but that's just how my pattern's gonna go. But now that you have your 3 beads on, you're gonna wanna look at the bead you're coming out of, which is this one, and then you're gonna wanna skip 3. So you're basically just gonna count 1, 2, 3, and you're gonna put it through this bead. And you just pull. And then you might have to like pull like really hard, but you might have to pull this B bead like up. So it should look like that. You might have to, it might be like this, and you might have to pull the yellow bead, or your B bead. I'm sorry, I don't know what color is yellow. And then basically, you're just gonna repeat that all around, and people have like trouble with the last bead. So I'm also gonna help you with that. But you're gonna repeat it all the way, and then I'll explain what to do after. Also, another thing, if for the single you did do the 2 A beads and the 1 B bead, then you would basically just put the string through, like we did for this, every B bead. So I'm gonna do an example of what yours would look like if you did do the 2 A beads and the 1 B bead. This is really confusing, I'm sorry, but basically you would take your colors, string them on, and then it is way easier for you guys because you have like a margin. But like, let's say these 2 were this color, and then this one, my bad, these 2 are pink, and then these 2, and then this one is red. Then you would know I have to put it through the red one. So the red ones or whatever are your like example for like, or your marking of where to put them. But it should start looking like this. And yeah, I'm really confusing, but I'm more of like I suck at explaining things, but I'm good at showing things. So yeah, I don't know, just repeat that, and if I'm no help, go look up another tutorial because I probably won't be any help for the rest of this video. Okay, but basically I've done it all the way around, and for the last one you're gonna string your 1 color A bead, and then your color B, and then another color A. And since I'm doing yellow or rainbow, my color A is orange and my color B is yellow. Basically for the last one you're gonna do the same thing. If you did 1 solid color for the single, you're just gonna count 1, 2, 3. It should be this last one of where you first started. But if you did the 2 color A beads and 1 color B bead, then you would just put it through that B bead. And then basically, you should end wherever you started. So like I started right here on this bead, and I'm ending on that bead. But now you're coming out of the bead you started from, and you push it up into that first orange and yellow bead. So I started here, and now I'm coming up through these. So now we're moving on to the second layer, I like to call it, of it. And also, don't be afraid to pull hard unless you're using plastic string. Because, once again, one time I pulled too hard while I was making an X base, and it snapped, and then it dented my fingernail. And my fingernail was dented for like a month. Honestly, more than that. But now you should be coming out of this top yellow bead. And then also, if you don't pull hard enough, then it's just going to be flat throughout the whole thing. And whenever I made my first X base cuff, and I wasn't pulling hard enough, and so it was just flat, and I thought I messed the whole thing up. And so I undid all of it. but I later realized I just wasn't pulling hard enough. So yeah, it's already been 10 minutes and we haven't gotten much done, but anyways, now you're coming out of this top yellow bead. Now you're gonna want to do whatever color you want to do. It should be kind of another one of these, color A, color B, color A. So that's what we're gonna do. So I'm just gonna put on my color A's and B's and stuff. So color A is green and color B is blue. Yeah. But now you're coming out, my string is all tangled. But now you're coming out of this top yellow bead, the one where you started, and now you're going through the next yellow bead. Or color B bead from the last row. And that's why I told you to like pull them so they stick up. So that way it's easier to like clarify which B bead you're going through. It's stuck on a water bottle, sorry. And then you basically just pull that. And it should look something like this. And so that is part of your X. These A bead is part of your X. It's like you have, that's the bottom of your X, and then that's the middle, and then I'm gonna do the next layer and show you the X. So basically all of these beads have a purpose, and most of them are to make the X, and the others are just to like finish off the cuff or fill in any like gaps. Okay, I'm gonna take my tweezers. Just wait. Okay, but I got my tweezers. And this is the X. So these are the bottom of the X's. You can look on your own cuff. I'm gonna zoom in. But these are the bottom. Where am I? These are the bottom parts of your X's. This is the middle. And then this. And then these two greens are at the top. So this is an X. So that's another way you can determine how tall your X space is. I don't know why I cut off. But like if you look inside of this one, like it just looks like a bunch of X's. But right here we can count. So it's 1X. You can't really see. I'm in the way. But that's 1X, and then you just count all the way down. So there's 1X, 2X, 3X, and 4X. So this is a 4X tall X space. So that's a way to determine like how tall somebody's X space is, and then you can use it for like a reference, I guess. But you're basically just gonna wanna just keep putting on ABA beads. So basically just repeat what we just did all the way around, and then I'll explain what to do to you. Explain what to do on the last one. Okay, and then notice whenever you're like doing this, it starts like curling up, and that's good. You want that. So whenever you're on the last one, you're once again going to string on your beads, and then I'm going to show you what to do. So really this whole thing is in groups of 3, but the next step we're about to do is in groups of 2, but don't worry about that. So what you're going to do is, now you're on the last one, you're going to put it through the yellow bead and put it up through this green bead and then this blue bead. So we once again are back where we started through this yellow bead. And then we lift it up into the green bead. And then the purple bead. Or not purple, blue. Sorry. But now it should look like this, and now you should be up inside of this blue bead. And then just pull really hard for a second. Because now it starts like curving and stuff. But this next step is the final step to make an X base that looks like this. Except for the spikes and then the single that rotates. It's the last step of the base. But basically what you're going to do is you're going to want to take 2 beads I would say mainly the same color. I feel like that's just really helpful if you have it the same color. And then you're coming out of a blue bead, so you're going to want to put it through the next blue bead. And then look. So now you basically just have 2 purple beads just hanging out. Sorry, I'm trying to get a good camera angle so you can see them, but it's just generally hard because I have clears here. But this is approximately what it should look like. You have your pink, and then you have the X, and then you have this. But you're just gonna repeat the 2 every time, and I'll show you what to do for the last one. So just repeat the 2 all the way around. Okay, but whenever you're on the last one, once again, you're going to take 2 beads and put them on your string. And then you're gonna find your next blue bead, which is right here, and then stick it through the blue bead. And then that's it. And then you don't have to move it up into these purple beads. You literally just leave it as that. And there you go. That is your first X-base cuff. And I'm going to show you how to make it into a rotator. So rotators are basically just X-base cuffs, just fancier and with extra stuff. But I'm going to show you how to tie off an X-base, because that's an important part. But basically what you're going to do first is you're going to want to pull. I'm coming out of this one. You're going to want to pull pretty tight just so all of the beads like are set in place. But I'm not going to be very good at explaining this. But I'm going to show you like this. But now you take the string. So this is the bead we're coming out of, this blue one. And then we have these 2 beads. You're going to want to stick it in between. We're going to put it like that, so like underneath the purple ones. And then we're going to pull it through. But don't pull it through all the way. So you should have something like this. So it's coming out of the blue one. You stick it through here. And then you don't pull it. Oh. And you don't pull it all the way. So you have a loop. And you... Sorry, I'm like dying. But you take the end of the string that's coming out of these purple ones and you put it through the loop. And then you basically just hold that loop and pull. And then you just pull, and it should be tied right there. And then once again, just repeat that a couple times, like 3 or 4 is good. So stick it underneath the purple ones, and then have the loop and stick the end of the string through the purple one, the loop. I'm gonna explain it one more time, because this is almost 20 minutes and we haven't even gotten to the actual rotator part. But you're coming out of this blue one, and then you stick it underneath the purple ones, pull it so you have a pretty tiny loop, not like very tiny, but like that, and then you take your string and you stick it through, and you just pull, and then you might have to shape it a little bit, but just make sure it goes in between the blue and the purple, or whatever beads in your case. But there you go. Do not cut the string yet, because we still need to do the spikes. But go ahead and try it on. Make sure it's not too big. That is your first X base, or I guess it might not be your first, but that is your X base. But now there's still more, so don't get comfortable. But what you're going to do is you're going to want to take your string, and we tied it right here, but we're going to want to put it through the purple beads. So you tied it right there, and now you stick it through those purple beads that you used to make the loop. So now it should be coming out of the farthest purple bead. I don't know, that's just what I got. I say purple bead 1, which is closest to the blue bead, and then purple bead 2, which is closest to a new blue bead. But you were coming out of this one, now you put it through here, and now you're coming out of this purple bead. But now what you're going to do is you're gonna want to pick. We're gonna do. So it's 5 beads, and for this one I did green. So I used 3 here. So I did green, clear, red, green, clear, yellow, and then green. But if you want to, you can do just all one color, or if you want to, you could do a mix of 5 colors, or a mix of 3, or a mix of 2, just anything. So if you want to do a mix of 1, it's not really a mix. You literally just take 5 beads and you string them on. If you want to do 2, the pattern I recommend is 2 of your first color, 1 of your next color, and then another 2 of the first color. If you want to do 3, I recommend this. So it's like your first color, your second color, your first color, your third color, and then your first color again. And then if you want to do 4, I don't really have a pattern for you, so I can't really help you. Okay, but I string my 5 on, and then now we're coming out of this purple bead, so now we're gonna go through the same exact purple bead, but the next one. So we're coming out of this one, now we want this one. So it's kind of like the same thing we did for the single. So it's like every 3 we put our string through, but except this time it's every like last purple bead. I don't know. I'm bad at explaining things, but it should look something like this, and you just repeat that, and I'll tell you what to do. Okay, but now it is finished. Now we need to do this side. So basically how you get to that side is, I call it sewing, except it's not really sewing, but you're coming out of this purple bead, you're gonna want to put it through the other beads, so you end up at these 2 beads. It doesn't really make sense, but you basically just take the string, and then I'm gonna do it, but you basically start like shoving it through your beads, like your X's and your stuff. So like I'm putting it through this one. Make sure it doesn't get tangled. But I'm putting it through that one, and now we're going through this one. But that's what I mean by like sew. I like sewing, and I don't know, it just reminds me of sewing. But you basically just move the string like throughout these beads until you get to these 2 pink beads. But I'm just gonna go ahead and do it on camera so you guys kind of get what I mean. I am watching YouTube on my tablet, so if you guys hear somebody talking, it's literally just Lauren. Don't mind her. She's just like here, you know. I am watching Lauren's side. I'm watching the wedding officiant judge one. It's awesome. Okay. But now I've sewn the string all the way up here, and so now it's coming out of that same exact bead that we were coming out of for that one. And now you just do the same thing. You add on your same exact 5 beads, and then you string it through, and then you put it through this one, and then you add your 5, and just repeat that all around. So you do the same thing you did up here. Okay, so I finished the spikes, and I'm gonna show you how to tie it. So this is the way I do it. So it's kind of the same thing as tying the X base, but you stick it through the nearest like spike, I'm gonna call it, and then once again make a loop, and then put the string through that loop, and then just repeat that, and then pull, And then make sure it goes like in between the beads so you're not like messing up your beads. And then just repeat that like 3 or 4 times. Okay, but I've tied it 3 times now, and now you can just go ahead and snip the tail. But that is the base and the spikes for your rotator cuff. And now I'm gonna go ahead and show you how to make the actual part that rotates. So I would try on your base first, make sure it fits. It does. This is actually really cute. But basically the rotator part, so you could do a ladder stitch and make it like, you can make it like 2-ish beads tall, but I prefer just singles for it. But basically what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to cut some string, maybe that much. You don't need much because we're just making a single that can fit around this and not just fit around your wrist. So basically pick a color combo. I'm probably gonna do like a real rainbow, so like with these colors. But just go ahead and make a single until it can like fit around the cuff. So basically just make a bigger single until it fits around here. You can put words on it if you want to, but I'm probably not going to because I don't have any vowels and then I barely have letters. So yeah. Okay, but once you've made the single big enough, you can go ahead and just tie it off. Okay, but whenever you tie it, you can go ahead and cut both ends. Okay. But so now that you have your single, you're going to take your cuff and you're gonna want to like, I just like lift the spikes, I guess, and then you kind of just put the single over it, and there you go. That is your finished rotator cuff. This is a smaller one compared to these two, but I might make a tutorial for how to make bigger ones. But for right now, that is your finished rotator cuff. I'm sorry if I'm very bad at explaining things and you don't understand. If you have any questions, I can try to explain it in the comments, or I can just make a follow-up video and like explain some other stuff maybe. I don't know, but Happy New Year, and I hope you enjoy your candy cuff. So comment down below what other kind of like tutorials I should do, because I can do like lizards, like ladder stitch tutorials, just a bunch of random stuff. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed. I hope my tutorial made sense. Happy New Year, and bye.